In May of 2000, Jeff Turner's promise to Tony Mazzolini to put Doc back in the air began. However, what showed up at Boeing's experimental flight hangar were trailer loads of derelict sections of B-29 parts and pieces filled with desert sand and a few critters along for the ride.
Looking through the front glass through the nose bowl, which was all broken out, it was piled full of wire and dirty tubing and sand and paper and trash, and it looked exactly what it was. It came right out of a salvage yard. One of the volunteers who came over to the shop I was in and said, "Would you please help us on Doc?" And I said, "No." He said, "Okay, would you make us a tool that we can use?" So I asked him to describe it, just a specialized tool to take the nose wheel gear out. I made this tool for him. It worked so well, and I was absolutely hooked.
I came in, I signed on in 2000, but actually came to work in the summer of 2001. I came out here not knowing a rivet from a screw. Was trained in sheet metal, and it was kind of the dream of a lifetime.
Jeff Turner, who was standing next to the front end of the airplane, he said, "Mike, what do you think?" And all I could say was, "Wow." So I knew right then and there I was going to have to get involved.
The first time I saw this airplane, it was in 5,000 pieces on the hangar floor, and I thought it'd never get put back together. And it's fantastic. It really is, and it's been a lot of fun doing it.
There was an initial rush of volunteers, which soon gave way to a smaller corps. From 2000 to 2002, the volunteers disassembled every part of the plane sections and put together a game plan for moving on.
The engines were off, and then the nacelles were on stands, and we removed all of the stuff inside the nacelles down to the basic aircraft structure.
Building cradles that would fit under the wing just to support the wing out of plywood. Building shipping fixtures where we were able to send a part out, have it worked and brought back in on a big skid or shipping fixture.
In 2002, Doc and the volunteers moved across Oliver Street to the North Hangar. The teams really began to come together where all the assembly of fuselage sections, wingmate, horizontal stabilizer, engines, and nacelles, along with wiring and landing gear, took place.
Owen Hughes, who was in the Second War and who did a lot of nose art on a lot of B-17s, volunteered to come from upstate New York, drive down here, and he painted the nose art on Doc.
It was quite a thrill to finally get to fly on the plane. When I painted it, it was just this front section. It was, the rest of it was still in parts.
In 2003, we finished the very first completed assembly on the airplane, and that was the trim tab on the vertical. Each section took such a tremendous amount of time, but I can also remember the day that we put the fuselage together for the first time. We shoved the back part of the fuselage together. Hey, it's starting to look like an airplane.
When the wing was reconstructed, refurbished, that we knew it would pass inspection.
It came to put the center wing section into the now joined body sections. It took about 100 people to coordinate and get the equipment. We used 2 cranes attached to each end of the center wing section, crawled in over the top of the airplane, and was able to drop it straight down into the fuselage to have Tony Mazzolini drive the main pin in. Now, it looked like an airplane.
When the fin and the stabilizer and the elevator were reassembled and put back on the airplane.
In 2005, Doc moved to the Mod hangars for 9 months, then moved back to the North Hangar until 2007.
The development of one of the key features of the airplane was to try to replace the broken glass, the nose bowl on the front, and what they call the greenhouse up over the top. The original design were flat panels of glass set into a curved frame up in a curved airplane fuselage. In the 1940s, they did not have the technology to develop curved glass without significant distortion. That's one reason you see the nose bowl, the flat panel in front, the teardrop-shaped piece in front is where the bombardier would look out. And that's the reason they changed it to flat, because curved glass gave distortion. It affected the accuracy of the bombing equipment or the bomb sight. Our redesign of this aircraft did away with the glass, which was originally 5/8 of an inch thick, multi-layered laminated tempered glass. We found a way to develop molds based on the shape of the window pieces, and a company here in Wichita called Lee Aerospace took those molds and they built us laminated acrylic replacement panels that were only 3/8 of an inch thick. The weight reduction just in that portion right there was significant enough to change the balance of the airplane, balance point of the airplane. It is the only B-29 with constant contour radius across the top. It has all the pieces and parts that look just like the original B-29, but only better. This airplane has been restored to new or better condition in so many areas, and the glass is one of them. Thousands and thousands of feet of wire in this airplane is brand new, along with the tubing. All the hydraulic tubing is brand new. The wiring harnesses are impeccable. Shortly thereafter, the installation of the landing gear, putting them up into where they belonged and actually getting to see them come down and be part of the structure or the appearance of the aircraft. A little gal named Connie Palacio, who is our original Rosie the Riveter. She worked on this airplane when she was 17, 18 years old. And she, along with the crew she had over at the Boeing factory, riveted the cheek skins underneath the windows on every single airplane that came out of there during her shift. So she touched almost every B-29 that came off her shift. And that legacy for her to be here now, still volunteering and being a part of our family, it's amazing. She's a wonderful, wonderful human being, and a credit to the women who built this airplane.
In 2000, when I heard they were going to restore it, I came to volunteer. And here I am. I've been here 16 years helping to restore it, and we finally got it done.
80% of the workforce in that factory in the 1940s were women. And they built 3 or more a day and rolled them out with such a level of accuracy and precision that less than 1/2 of 1% ever had any structural failures before it delivered to the customer.
In 2007, Doc and the volunteers had to move out of the North Hangar. The Kansas Aviation Museum offered them space. Doc and all the support material were moved across the tarmac to their location.
So we moved the airplane to Kansas Aviation Museum, and all of our trailers, all of our parts, all went to a warehouse in Newton, Kansas. And the outer wings also went up there. And the airplane sat outdoors at Kansas Aviation Museum for 2 or 3 years. Our Berger team worked on the outer wings for over 5 years and finished the outer wings at Newton. During that time, they moved the plane to the Air Force refueling hangar, which is right behind CAM. Now, we could put the airplane in there to keep it out of the weather, but we were not allowed to work on it. We could show it, we could take tours, but we could not work on it. Our big transition period on this whole airplane was one thing: Doc's Friends.
Doc's Friends, a 501c3 nonprofit, is formed in February 2013 by a group of Wichita aviation enthusiasts and business leaders to complete the work started more than a decade before. In 2013, Doc and the volunteers moved back to the North Hangar, where the final assembly of the rudder, outer wings, engines, and nacelles took place.
A newly designed power plant that had more horsepower and more reliability than the old ones did. Making the tools to hang them in the right angle and getting the team put together that had crane motors to pick it up and hoist it. Having volunteers show up using their craft and their trade and their skills to be able to say that we know how to put an engine on a B-29 and a propeller blade. To step back and look at an almost finished aircraft.
Doc was completely assembled by 2015. On March 23, 2015, Doc rolls out to the public exactly 70 years to the day that Doc was delivered to the Army Air Corps, and within feet of the same location on the ramp at what is now McConnell Air Force Base. In late 2015 to early 2017, Doc is moved to the flight line.
We did accomplish a lot on that flight line.
Doc's first engine start occurred on September 18, 2015.
When we actually took the airplane out on the flight line and fired up those engines for the first time, that plane had seen some life, because that's the lifeblood of that airplane. There were a lot of tears. I'm getting goosebumps just remembering the story.
To hear them roar and to hear the sound that all the veterans had told me about all these years, the sound is so, you'll never get tired of that sound of these engines.
That's when FAA totally inspected the airplane inside out, backwards, front to back. We got certified that we were ready to go to work towards flying the airplane.
On May 20th, 2016, exactly 16 years after arriving in Wichita with restoration completed, Doc receives the airworthiness certificate from the FAA.
I have to thank the volunteers for their dedication over these years. We couldn't have done it without you.
Over the years of restoration, Doc received many distinguished visitors.
It became very emotional each time we have visitors. It would just pull at your heartstrings to know that people, even though they had no idea what you'd been through or how far you had yet to go, they would compliment you and they would tell you how wonderful what you're doing is and tell you about their family member who was a B-29 crew member or worked at the factory or served in Saipan or Tinian or even in Korea.
Remembering those volunteers who are no longer with us.
We have lost approximately 26 or 7 of our volunteers that volunteered over those years. And every time the plane flies or something, we feel like they're watching. They all become family, and that really kind of hurts when you lose one.
They passed the ball to us to finish the program.
With over 450,000 hours from hundreds of volunteers, Doc returns to the skies once again on July 17, 2016.
It was a beautiful sight, beautiful sound, cheers all around. 1,000 people cheering Doc on in the air.
Doc is truly magnificent and an example of American ingenuity.
We did it. The whole thing came together just to get this sucker back in the air.
But when that plane lifted off the ground, I can guarantee you I don't think there was much of a dry eye in the crowd.
Doc is now ready for his tour of duty. Promises made, promises kept.